What's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome back to another player interview. This time I'm here with Ricardo Flores, who did very well at the Dallas event. Ricardo, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing fine. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how you performed at the Dallas event?
Right, so at Dallas, I took my Broly victory strike. I went X2, and I had a lot of fun. There's a lot of great players, and I had a lot of great matchups. You know, because the number one thing I've heard about this deck, for the most part, is that Broly, the Awakened Threat, can't compete in this format. But I feel like the deck is still very strong, still very powerful, and it has a lot of excellent matchups.
Gotcha. And what were a lot of your matchups? Like, did you play a lot of Skillless, a lot of Super Shenron? What'd you face all day?
All right, so in making the deck, I had Super Shenron in mind. For whatever reason, I guess just got lucky, and I didn't get to face a single one, but I did face two Skillless, yellow Skillless, a blue Skillless. My other matchups were two Janembas, one Agent of Destruction Dende. I ran into one of the Shenron blue decks I was running around, and my last two matchups were Lemon Line Golden Frieza and one of the green blue Broly decks that's going around.
Gotcha, very nice. Yeah, Shenron Boo has been, it's not like a new deck, but it's a deck that's like getting popular again after not being popular for a little while. And then Dende AOD, that's like a matchup that I think is really, really scary as well. But for this deck, was it kind of just like Nimbus them and then height them and win, or how did that matchup go?
All right, cool. So that was round two. I played, can't remember his first name, but his last name is Welch.
Oh, Chris Welch, my teammate. Oh, wow,
Yeah,
holy crap.
Chris.
That's my teammate.
All right, cool. So
that's awesome.
I played Chris in round two. I took game one. I went into the Height of Mastery. I tapped him out. I swung for game. Game two, I think he out-comboed the Height of Mastery by around 5,000. So that sucked. And then I don't know if it was the fatigue from having to, have an 8-hour drive or not having breakfast. But for game three, for whatever reason, I cited out my Whis and I put in the Dark Power Black Mass Saiyan. Right, like I wasn't thinking, and it turned out that Chris had no outs for the Whis, so if I had kept it in deck, I would have taken game three. Gotcha.
Yeah, it happens. It's a super long drive, and the fatigue definitely set in. Where did you end up? In top 16, top 8?
It's interesting because I ended up in top 16. I got 15th place.
Okay.
But my best friend and I, we made the drive together, and he finished X3. He ended up losing. He lost in the last round, so he didn't quite make top 16. But we had to come back home because we're both teachers, and we had to do paperwork. It's the end of the semester, so it's almost time for summer. Had to do some paperwork for school, and unfortunately did not get to play out. Day two, my opponent would have been the Broly deck that made top 16, or finished second place actually.
Gotcha. Wow, that's kind of unfortunate, but you're doing great work helping teach these kids. But we really appreciate it. So we'll get into the deck now. So what made you want to play this deck in general before we get into the deck?
All right, cool. So I just felt that the deck had a lot of really good matchups. Right. I felt I wasn't expecting to see so much Janemba, but I was fortunate enough to see Janemba player in round one. And then I saw a Janemba player in my last round, and I just feel that against that matchup, you have an auto win. There's really not a lot that they can do, especially if you manage to see your Trunks, the power overseeing time.
Right.
I know that in one of my games with their very first attack, they milled my victory strike, but I had the Trunks in hand, so I was able to overwhelm, get my victory strike, and then turn 4 I went into it and I won the game. But as far as the other matchups go, I feel that the deck matches up very well against Skillless, and it's one of the few decks that can utilize all these powerful yellow cards like Cold Bloodlust, Flying Nimbus, and the MVP of the deck was for me personally, it was the Trunks. But the two copies of Sugesh in the main deck, I felt made all the difference in the world.
Gotcha. So yeah, I'll ask you right now. Why did you decide to play 2 Shugesh and like not 4 Shugesh or like not or 0 Shugesh? Why was it 2?
All right, cool. I think Jaco is a very powerful card in its own right for the fact that it's 0-10,000. I wanted to do a split because Kanoa is a thing, and I ran into situations in playtesting where my opponent's swinging at me, they've Kanoa'd me, and if I drop the Sugesh, then I don't get to draw a card. And if I don't draw cards, then it's possible that I may not be able to out-combo my opponents. But the very cool thing about this deck is that it can consistently awaken turn 2. So even if they side in the Chronoas, there's no guarantee that they're going to see them first and foremost. But since you awaken so fast and so early, it's completely within the realms of possibility for you to drop the Sugesh and go into the path to greatness. And thanks to the auto, it turns Sugesh into one of the standard super combos where you're able to draw a card. So it's just, a whole bunch of plussing.
Okay, awesome. So we'll keep going through the main deck. So you had the Bardock just for some main deck green Broly hate, and then Victory Strike with only 2 copies of U7 Representative. So did you see Victory Strike enough all day?
I believe I used Victory Strike in 7 of my games.
Okay.
So I was able to see it fairly consistent for whatever reason against all the Janembas.
Excellent.
I kept seeing my Victory Strike within the first 2 to 3 turns.
Can't ask for much better than that.
Right. I believe in 2 of my games it was in the live, and the moment I dropped the first Bardock, or I meet my first attack with the leader, I just drew into it.
Excellent. Yeah, you can't ask for anything better than that. So we had the 4 Successor, the 3 Cold Bloodlust, the 2 Bad Ring, the 4 Nimbus. Then we come into the Storm package a little bit. So 3 Bardock. Did you ever wish you had Grandpa, or you never needed it?
I never felt like I needed it. I felt that if anything, I only ever used Bardock turn 1 to take that extra lives, and that was pretty much it. If I did use my Successors of Hope early in game, it was to get the Son Gohan so I could Bardock, go Son Gohan, and then I give myself the option of either swapping to Path of Greatness turn 2 or 3, and then I just play defensively and go into the Height of Mastery turn 4.
Gotcha. And then Fudging Talon Pan. I feel like this is a card that we don't see in a lot of Height of Mastery decks. So why did you decide to play this card?
All right. So the options are pretty much Pan or the Jin combo card. I prefer Pan for the fact that when you combo off the Jin, you're necking yourself 1 card in hand to mill 3. And I didn't want to put myself in a situation where I'd be milling 3 and say I mill all 3 copies of my Height of Mastery, or I mill away my Victory Strike, and those are my win conditions. So I feel that with the Pan, you discard a dead card in your hand, you draw a card, and you're pretty much maintaining your hand advantage throughout the game.
Gotcha. I like the reasoning. Two more negates with Time Magic, and then 2 Whis for that anti-meta hate. 2 U7 reps, and then the Game Blocker. So how much work did this card put in for you? I feel like it'd be very good against like AOD, against like Skillless. How good was this card all weekend?
Okay, so the reason why I put the card in the main deck is because I was expecting a whole bunch of Super Shenron.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't run into any Super Shenron, but for whatever reason, against all my other matchups, it was wonderful. Whenever I would open up with the Bardock or 1 or 2 copies, I drop them on board. And if my opponent's swinging because they want to end me, I know this happened with the Shenron Boo player, right? They started swinging for game. I had 2 Genies out, and I was able to drop my Flying Nimbus and just block out the rest of the attacks. And I believe against Chris, I was able to also stop a couple attacks from his Agents of Destruction. And in the matchups where the Genie really wasn't important, that's 3 cards that I could easily side out and side something in.
Excellent. And then we have the Shugesh again. Curious, how many times did you actually get Kanoa all weekend?
Okay, so out of my 8 matches, I know Chris. Chris was running them. Out of my 8 matches, I believe I got Kanoa maybe 6 to 7 times, more or less.
Okay, so for the majority of it, you got Kanoa.
Yes, but there was also a whole bunch of situations where my opponents would side in the Kanoas, but they would never see them, right? Like, I was way too fast, turn 2. And then there was other times when my opponents would see the Kanoas, but because of the nature of the deck, how quickly you can go to Path of Greatness, it didn't really matter at that point. And then I believe in 2 of my matchups, game 1, I did not see the Sugesh, so my opponents made the assumption that I was not running it. So game 2, I was dropping it, and I was bringing out my Path to Greatness turn 3 for free.
Yeah, that part's pretty cool. When the opponent doesn't see Sugesh game 1, they think you're not running it. That's happened to me in the past before too. And then we have only 2 Son Gohan, so your ratios are very interesting here. You have 3 Bardoks, 2 Gohans, and then 2 of these Gotens, and then 4 Path. So it seems like you think Path is really, really important. So why these ratios?
Okay, so the Gohan, the only way that I'm going to bring out the Gohan is to swap it off of the Bardock, right? So I felt that 2 copies was more than enough, especially because it's searchable by the Successor of Hope. And the Path to Greatness, I ran it at 4 because of how much utility the card has, right? I can hard summon it as a 3-drop, get my draw against skillless. Whenever I would bring out the Path very early in the game, turns 2, turns 3, I would put their Gokus to rest, and then with the leader awakened activate main ability, I put something else to rest. So I just kept clearing their boards, and they weren't really able to recover after that.
Gotcha. And then the Goten is very interesting as well. Were you afraid of like cards attacking active modes, or why include the Goten?
All right, so the Goten is there because in playtesting against the Broly matchup, I liked that I was able to drop the Path to Greatness on the 4 and 6 drop Brolys, attack, combo over them, knowing that the 4 and 6 drops can't really pop the Path to Greatness, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in the event that they would out combo me, then at the very least I knew that their next logical play would be to try to get rid of my Path to Greatness, and the Son Goten's free 15,000 combo, right? So it's a added boost.
Very cool. And then 1 explosive and 1 SS2 Gohan. So how come 1 and 1? Why not just like 2 of one or 2 of the other?
Well, originally I really wasn't planning to run the explosive at all. I had 2 SS2 Gohans in my main, and no explosives whatsoever in the side deck. But I just felt that it's a barrier blocker, and if you're able to bring it out with the Sugesh, it pops a card in rest mode, and at the very least you can attack with it, combo something, force them to get rid of cards from hand, and then at the end of the turn it's going to untap, go back to active, and protect yourself. But I know that I did manage to use 2 of them over the course of all my matchups, but I never got to use them with Sugesh.
Oh wow, so you were hard summoning it.
Yeah, so the SS2 Gohan, I brought it out twice. Once off of the Son Gohan swap, and the second time I had to hard summon it against my green-blue Broly matchup, and that actually won me the game.
Gotcha. Very cool. All right, so we'll go over the side deck real quick. So we've got 2 Kanoa. How many mirror matches did you face where you needed Kanoa?
No mirror matches whatsoever.
Okay, so these never really came in?
No, it never came in.
Still good to have, I think, though.
Yeah. It felt nice to have, especially in the early part of the tournament where I kept seeing that there was a bunch of people like Marcel and others who were playing the Yellow Broly GT deck.
Yeah, right.
So, at the very least, you stop them from going off turn 2.
Definitely. And then extra copies of Time Magic for those dual attacking cards. the Dark Power Black Mass Sin, and then Tau. So I feel like hand control is not very prevalent right now. So what cards were you afraid of that you wanted to sideboard Tau?
All right, so Tau is basically only there for the Lord Slug or Rogue Lemon Lime Golden Frieza matchup, which there was a player who made it in the top 16, and my round 6 actually was against a Lemon Lime Golden Frieza player. So in that matchup, by turn 2, I was already awakened with 1 untapped yellow energy, a Cold Bloodless in hand, a Whis, a Masayan, and a Tau on board.
So just not much they could do.
Not much they could do about that. Yeah, that's right. I completely shut that matchup down.
Definitely. And then so the rest of the sideboard looks pretty standard. A lot of one-ofs though. So did you feel like you saw everything when you kind of needed it, or do you wish you played some more copies of certain things?
Okay, so the only card I actually wished I in hindsight I actually ran more copies of was the Vegeta Striving to be the Best.
Okay.
I never used it all day, but just in theory, if I did run into that Janemba matchup when they're dropping the Vegito or the Vegeta, it's a great card. It basically comes down for 1 energy.
Gotcha. And then throughout the side deck and main deck, were there any cards that you just kind of felt like you didn't need to play, that you felt like were dead? And was there any changes you would make?
Not so much for the main deck. I felt very comfortable the way that the main deck was playing. If anything, on the side deck, I'd probably get rid of the Explosive Son Goku, maybe even the Massing and Bardock, because I never felt like it was needed for the skillless matchup. But I would say that the most important cards in my main deck were the Trunks for that Janemba matchup and the Time Magics, because I felt like nearly every single time that I was siding out cards, I would take out the Jinnies, and whenever I would side in, I would add that Time Magic.
Gotcha.
In playtesting, when the Broly players, when they bring out their secret rare and they swing at you, you can just Time Magic it and it won't be able to restand.
Right.
So if they leave themselves at 1 life, then that's it for them. You just they have to pass their turn, you swing with your leader, and you win the game. Gotcha.
Okay, so that's pretty much the whole main and side deck. So any final remarks or comments on the event, or anyone you want to shout out?
Yeah, sure. Well, this was my first ever big event, right? I've been playing this game since before day 1, when they had those 3 decks, the demo decks. There you go. But I never had the opportunity to go to a big event. I know that in the early days of Set 2, when they had those ARG events for the Beerus and Broly mat, I went to one of the events in Corpus Christi. I got top 16 with Golden Frieza, but this was really my first big event, right? There was 170 people. Didn't know what to expect. Didn't have breakfast till 4 in the afternoon, so that was pretty stressful. But for the most part, I had a lot of fun. My matchups were great. They were fantastic. I never felt like I was in a game that I couldn't win. And shout out to my buddy Ricardo Flores. He ended up 5-3. I believe he had the best success with the AOD deck out of the other 2 players maybe that were running it. My buddy Andre Melton actually started the event 5-3, but then he ended up losing his last 3 rounds, unfortunately, so he didn't quite make the event. But they're both great players, so shout out to both of them. Hopefully maybe the next event they can make top 16. Shout out to Chris and the green Broly deck player, for whatever, he's my buddy on Facebook. I forgot his name, but that was one beast of a deck, man. He was running the starter deck Broly line, right? So he was going from 1 to 4, 7, pretty much just bypassing the 6-drop, and then he had the option of going to the secret rare. Unfortunately for him, he never went into it, but I can see why he started off 4-0. Very powerful deck.
Very cool, man. Very cool. Yeah. These big events are definitely a grind, but going and doing well and meeting the community is absolutely excellent. So, Ricardo, thank you so much for sharing your deck profile with us. Really appreciate it, and we'll see you guys next time.
All right, thank you.
Hey, what's going on, Dragon Ballers? Thanks for watching that video. If you would be so kind to drop a sub, maybe check out some of our videos. If the end card is even there, you know, the hardest part of doing YouTube is not the editing, it's not the videos, it's not the content creation, it's that YouTube just doesn't want to work sometimes. So hopefully that stuff is there. You guys are awesome. I'll see you in the next one.